All right, well, I guess I shall get started then. And like I said, if you do not catch this live, you can always catch it on my YouTube channel you can find that link if you don't already have it using the YouTube command. Everything is up to date there. I've also created a playlist, so everything up to this point is already on there. And the notes, the up-to-date notes are on my Discord in my Discord channel, the bidding channel on my Discord server, which you can find using the Discord command. I should pin those notes. I will do that after this because that way it doesn't get lost. But anyways, moving on. So last time we were talking about some additional conventions worth considering that I didn't fit in last time, and then also going through the different types of doubles that are worth playing. So let's take a look at what some of the things we covered. So first we covered Namyats, and Namyats is a good way to differentiate between solid four of a major preempts and four major preempts that are with broken suits. The idea being that you open four of a minor to actually indicate a solid heart or spade suit. So four clubs is for hearts and four diamonds is for spades. The advantage of this is now if you open four hearts or four spades, you're implying that you don't have a solid suit. Of course, you shouldn't really have anything outside of your suit for this. The more you have, the closer it is to a two club opener. It should be reserved for just like a solid suit and nothing on the outside primarily. So, uh, the idea is here, North would open four clubs, and South has got the King of Diamonds as which he might feel is worth protecting. So typically, what you do here, did I say four clubs? I meant four diamonds. So typically, what you do in these situations is you typically bid the in-between step to transfer it back to your partner to declare so that their hand is hidden. But if you have something that you need to protect, like in this case, the King of Diamonds, you might just choose to bid four spades yourself to potentially right side the contract. So with this hand, I think I would try to right side here and bid four spades over four diamonds instead of transfer back to my partner. It doesn't matter here, but, you know, there are advantages to doing that, especially based on who might be on lead. So that's not a bad application of that. So that's Namyats. Then we talked about negative free bids, which is the ability to get into competitive auctions with less than what is typically implied of bidding that suit directly in just standard bridge competitive auctions. The idea being that if you've got less than 10 points in a suit that you want to bid after they overcall with a non-jump at the 1 or 2 level, you can just bid your suit directly to show that suit in a non-forcing hand. Your partner can pass. You have to alert it's non-forcing, of course, because the standard treatment is forcing. If your partner wants to pass, they can. If they've got extras, they can certainly raise. But the idea being that if you have, more than more strength, like what you would typically bid with over that auction to show some points, is you start with a double, and then after that you bid your suit. So a double is no longer truly negative in the sense that you're not always promising four in the other major. You might just have too much strength, and you can't go through just bidding the suit directly because that would be a negative free bid. But I do like negative free bids as long as don't overuse them, especially in the wrong circumstances. Like if you're vulnerable against not, it's probably not a good idea to stick in your neck with a 5 count in a bad suit. But plenty of times it actually works out all right. So for here, for example, let's say North opens a club and East overcalls a spade. Now the South hand, you would be frozen out in standard bridge. But with negative free bids, you can bid two diamonds, which tells your partner, I've got less than 10 points and I've got a diamond suit. So now your partner can pass, and you may not win this auction. West is probably going to come in with a two spade bid, but your partner, if they're feeling frisky, might raise, or at least you get to push them up based on the auction. So what if you are a passed hand? If you're a passed hand, I don't think negative free bids should apply because you've already limited your hand by passing to begin with. I feel like it should just revert to just standard stuff, regardless of what my slithery partner thought this morning. I have to figure that out, but that would involve talking to him, which I don't know if we'll ever get to that point or not. So those are negative free bids. Then we talked about the different types of doubles that exist. The most classical double that, is not just a standard takeout double is a negative double. The idea being that, a double over their overcall implies four cards in the other major, unless you're not going through like a negative free bid situation. You have too strong a hand. Now like basic bridge books will say that you have the other two suits, like if they open a club, a heart, double has to show spades and diamonds. I certainly don't feel like that has to be the case. I just stress having the other major. You can always find a way to figure out where you need to play if you don't have, the fourth suit covered. But it's just, primarily important to get that fourth suit across. And hey, or that other major across. And hey, PJ, nice to have you here. So here, for example, North opens a club, East overcalls a heart, and then South, of course, doubles to show four spades. Now, bidding a spade directly, of course, now implies at least five. Do that in this situation. And over a club, a diamond, a double would show both four-card majors. Bidding a major over a club, a diamond does not show five or more. It could be on a four-bagger. You just may not have four in the other major. Then there's support doubles, which is used to show three cards support for the suit your partner responded to your opening with once they interfere in an auction. Redoubles also apply too, so you could have support redoubles as well. So here, for example, North opens a diamond, South bids a heart, and West is going to come in with a spade. And now North doubles to show three-card heart support. And now South knows they have the 8-card fit, and they can stay within their heart fit here without getting overboard. And you can also extend this support double to be played in situations even when you already know you have a fit. Like in the previous hand when we were playing negative doubles. Over a club, a heart, a spade promises at least five. And now let's say they bid two hearts on your left, or on the opener's right, rather. Now you could still make a support double to show three-card support, and therefore the raise has to show four there. Likewise, you can also use support doubles. It doesn't, primarily it's after a minor major or like a heart of spade, but you can also use it after a club, a diamond. You could still show three-card support there. I don't think double would be useful as anything else. So in case you do have a 8-card diamond fit and that's your best spot to play, you could still apply support doubles to that situation. Then we talked about maximal doubles. Maximal doubles being a way to show a competitive hand versus an invitational hand when they interfere in your auction. The one point I always want to stress is that this only applies when they bid the suit directly under your major at the 3 level. If they don't bid it directly the suit under it, you still have room to make artificial game tries. So you should use those, and then double in those situations should be penalty. Once again, this contrasts what some of my partners think, but that should be the key takeaway. Like, if you're bidding hearts, they have to bid to 3 diamonds, and if you're competing in spades, they have to bid to 3 hearts for this to be a true maximal double. So on this hand, for example, the North hand's going to open a heart, East hand is going to overcall 2 diamonds, South will raise to 2 hearts. Let's say West is feeling frisky and bids 3 diamonds. Now North, with a 15 count and a singleton, should double to show that they've got an invite and basically are asking South, hey, if you're at the top of your bid, go. If not, just bid 3. And with this hand, South might go. They also may not. They don't know that their well, they actually do know their partner's sitting on diamond shortness, so they might do it based off of that. And they also have the 5-card suit. At imps, I certainly feel like it's worth a go, but at match points, it's a little more debatable, even though it's obviously going to take a lot of tricks. But the idea being that if you were to just bid 3 hearts here directly over 3 diamonds, it's not invitational, it's just purely competitive, trying to block them out, more or less a law of total tricks bid, or just having some type of distribution that makes the hand worth being on offense as opposed to defense. Then we talked about equal level conversion doubles, which is a way after they open a major to be able to double to show diamonds in the other major without implying clubs. And that when your partner bids clubs over to double, you do not need to have extras to correct to 2 diamonds like you would normally, where that shows a strong hand. You're just merely showing diamonds and hearts, and your partner can pick the best spot to play from there. So this hand, for example, East opens a spade, South now can double instead of having to overcall 2 diamonds like they would before. Let's assume the West hand passes. Now North is going to bid, well, they'll probably bid a no trump, but let's say they bid 2 clubs instead. South could instead now bid 2 diamonds to show that they had diamonds and hearts and were not interested in clubs, and now North can, either leave it in diamonds or pull the 2 hearts if they feel like that Moisian plays better. Of course, that 2 diamond bid should be alerted because typically that shows extras, whereas here it could be on a dead minimum opening hand. Then we talked about Snapdragon doubles. Snapdragon doubles are ones that don't come up as often, but are pretty powerful when they do. The idea being that in these situations, when they open a suit, what do you do with 18 high card points and diamonds? Well, in that situation, you have to jump, which isn't pretty. I mean, you don't want to have to jump the 3 diamonds to convey that hand, but um, you don't really have much of a better option in front of you. I mean, Q-bidding their suit sounds like it's support for whatever your partner bids, so you just have to jump in that situation, because just bidding at the 2 level would just be on a minimum, so you have to like jump to 3 there. So, like I was saying with Snapdragon doubles, the idea with this is when they open one suit, your partner overcalls a second suit, and they bid a third suit, a double by you shows tolerance for your partner's overcalled suit, at least 5 cards in the fourth suit, and at least 8 points is the classical meaning of a Snapdragon double. And yes, I've seen people break this all the time, and they only have like 2 out of 3, but that is the textbook definition of Snapdragon. So this hand, for example, West would open a club, North would overcall a heart, East would bid 1 spade, and now South could double to show diamonds, heart tolerance, and at least 8 points. It may not get them anywhere on this hand. Obviously, East-West have a spade fit, and they have 9 cards in the suit. They're probably competing to the 3 level, but at least your partner has a clear picture of your hand from a defense perspective. Yeah, if you play Snake Dragon, only 1 out of 3 is necessary. And then the last double that we talked about was Rosencrantz. This one gets often overlooked, but I feel like it's not worth forgetting. The idea being that after your partner overcalls and they take some action, a double by you, or even a redouble if they double and make a negative double, should show at least ace or king in the overcalled suit and at least 2 cards in the suit. That way, if your partner's got like ace empty fifth, they can safely lead low to your king, and you could potentially get a ruff in that scenario. And on top of that, if you raise directly and you don't go through Rosencrantz, your partner knows you don't have the ace or the king, so that they're on lead and they have like ace queen, for example, they'll know to find another lead because they'll know that you can't have the king in that suit if you play it. What you do lose is that in certain situations you can't play Snapdragon if you're playing Rosencrantz. Like on an auction, for example, like on the previous auction, you would not be able to have a Snapdragon double there if you were also playing Rosencrantz, because you can't really have both there. But there are certain situations in which you can just have Rosencrantz, or you can just pick which one you think is more preferable. But to give an example of what it would look like, here East would open a club, North would overcall a heart, South would make East would make a negative double, and now South can redouble to show at least doubleton heart and ace or king in that suit. That way, when your partner's on lead, they can safely underlead the ace of hearts instead of making a more drastic lead. All right, so that's a good review. So in this lesson, what we're going to talk about is overcalls, and then we're also going to talk about everybody's favorite topic. Well, if everybody's favorite topic isn't doubles, the next logical choice is slam bidding, because we love our slam alerts and everything. So we're going to talk about different ways to look at for slam, and how you should be playing it properly. And this is not how Gib plays it. Is Lightner double good too? Yeah, Lightner double, I didn't really cover because, it only comes up in very specific situations, but it definitely is worth talking about. So for those who are unfamiliar, the idea being that like when you double a contract for penalty in a certain situation, it usually is asking for lead of, dummy's first bid suit. So, like, if they open a heart and they wind up in 3 no trump and you're sitting on ace, king, jack, fifth of hearts and maybe an outside card, you can double to tell your partner to lead a heart at their first opportunity, because it's going to go right through the dummy into your stack. You can do this with trump stacks. You can do this with, or you can do this with stacks in the dummy's first bid suit. You can do it with voids. It just really depends on the situation. But they certainly are powerful doubles in those situations when you can find them. And I can also link Lightner doubles because there's a full checklist on what, specifically what suit the Lightner double is asking for in certain situations. So, first thing that we have to talk about is no trump overcalls. So, we have to talk about, whether it's the direct seat or the balancing seat, because it obviously has has a difference in what type of point count that bid conveys. So classically, in the direct suit, a 1-no overcall should show 15 to 18 points with at least one stopper in their suit. The stopper requirement is pretty much mandatory when they open a major. I mean, when you know they have at least 5 cards in a suit, to overcall a no trump without a stopper is pretty risky, obviously. Now, if they open a diamond, the flexibility can be a little lighter, especially if they open a club, which has a much higher frequency of being a 3-card suit as opposed to like a diamond, for example. There, you don't necessarily need to have a double. Like, if you just can't manage to make a takeout double, or I mean, you don't necessarily have to have a stopper. If you just can't manage to make a takeout double, you probably are still going to be okay with a no trump overcall. But certainly over a major, I think that's, like 99.9% of the time, you should definitely have a stopper in their suit. So the direct seat should show 15 to 18. And then what we have to talk about is the balancing seat. Now, if you play Robot Gib system, they say that a balancing no trump should show 11 to 14 points. I feel like that's too narrow of a range because what happens is, if you have like 15 to 16 points, what that's implying is that you have to double, and then after your partner's response, you have to bid one no trump. I'm certainly not a fan of that. I certainly feel like that bid should be stronger, just like it would be stronger if you were to do it in the direct seat. So what I'm recommending for the balancing no trump range is to bump it from 11 to 14 to 11 to 16. And I would especially go for this over the majors. Over the minors, you might still be able to play 11 to 14 and be successful, but I feel like over the majors, to double and then bid no trump with only a 15 or 16 count is pretty nuts. So the way you can properly find where you belong with a wider range, like 11 to 16, is to play a convention called Range Ass Stamen. And basically what Range Ass Stamen is it's ordinary Stamen, but the caveat is that you respond at a certain level to not only convey what your major situation is, but also what your point count is. So in this situation, when they open a suit, you balance a no trump with 11 to 16, and then your partner bids 2 clubs. You can use different steps to convey what you have. The idea being that you respond at the 2 level to show a minimum, 11 to 12. If you're in the medium, 13 to 14, you respond 2-no. This does not say anything about your major suit situation. If your partner's still interested, they can bid 3 clubs over 2-no to re-ask, and then you could have your ordinary stamen response. And then if you're at the top, 15 to 16, you jump with your response. You respond at the 3 level. So, like, you could have an auction like 1 heart or 1 diamond, pass, 1 no, pass 2 clubs, pass 3 hearts, which show like 15 to 16 points and at least 4 hearts. So that's a good way to be able to properly pinpoint your partner's count with that, because obviously if you didn't have something like Range Ass Stamen available, you have a 6-point range and you're trying to decipher it and know where to go. Now this makes it pretty clear, when you should be inviting versus when you should be going, and so on and so forth. So for that reason, if you play this convention, having that wider balancing range certainly works. Now, if you're not going to play this, I wouldn't recommend it. I would probably just go back to 11 to 14. But I like widening that range, and this convention is a good way to be able to properly do that. So then the one other thing that we should talk about with no trump overcalls is something that's sometimes overlooked by players, is what is a 2-no overcall in the balancing seat. In the direct seat, it's an unusual 2-no, the lowest 2 unbid suits. But in the balancing seat, does it really make sense to go all the way to 2-no to show the other 2 suits, to force yourself on the 3 level when it might be a disaster? Not really. So in that situation, it makes more sense for it to be a balanced hand with, a good hand. Too strong to bid 1 no in the balance, and too strong to just double and bid no trump. This should be like 19 to 21 points typically is what people play 2-no in the balance there is. So if we go back to our convention card that we're working on, we've made some good progress through this to this point. Let's go through the no trump overcall system. We'll say 15 to 18. Systems are on. We'll say balance is 11 to 16. We'll say systems on over balance. Some people don't play systems on over a balance, but I think it's still worth having. I'm still a fan of transfers and everything over that. A jump to 2-no is the 2 lowest, and then 2-no in bal equals 19 to 21. So we talked about no trump overcalls. Now we got to talk about just ordinary suit overcalls. So just for starters, when vulnerable, um, my suit overcall is generally going to be on a decent hand. You know, for the point requirement for an overcall of a one level bid, it's a very wide range. Typically people say like it's 7 or even 6 to like 17. It's a huge range. I feel like vulnerable. You're not going to catch me with like that light of a hand. I'm probably going to have usually at least 9 points. And in terms of suit quality, I'm not going to do it on like Jack empty fifth because I don't want my partner raising and then me being caught in a bad situation. So unless I got like an opening hand and I have to make an overcall just because I have to show my hand, suit quality is something that I'm going to stress a lot, especially when vulnerable in these situations. And I think with a regular overcall, you shouldn't be doing that with ragtag suits. So doubling and then bidding a suit generally shows 17 or better. I'm gonna bump that to a good 17 because there's some 17 counts that I think are just worth a standard overcall. If it's a quacky 17 count, I don't think it's worth doubling and then bidding a suit. Because your hand really isn't truly worth 17 points. If it's effective 17, then sure, you should double and bid a suit. But, some people just say 7 to 17. I'm going to say that's like it should be a 17 plus, or, well, a 17 minus, rather. Bergen raises over with major suit overcalls. People don't normally play this, but I feel like it's still effective. I think it still works just as well as after your partner opened if you're going to play them. You of course be weary of this when vulnerable because the last thing you want to do is go for 200 when they can't make anything beyond a part score. But from a law of total tricks perspective, it's still effective to have these type of system available to you, and this can still allow you to find those fringe games as well as just be able to block them out of whatever contracts they might have available to them. So, you don't hear this often, but I still play Bergen here. So, in terms of this, I'll say 7 to 17 minus. A new suit should be non-force and constructive. A jump raise should be weak. And we should also play Bergen. And what I'm about to talk about next, which is what we've already talked about before with major suit openers, is transfers. We previously were talking about transfers over a major suit opening in a double, where, you can have all your responses be transfers and then have a way to show a good raise versus a trashy raise. But I certainly feel like they're also effective over overcalls because typically sometimes in those situations your partner has the better hand than you do and you want them to right side the contract in those situations. So you can play basically the same system. Only a few things have to change. Instead of redouble being like 10 points like it normally is after a double of an opening bid, now you can make it like you can bump it down a little bit and have it 8 or more working points for the redouble. Transferring into their originally bid suit, like for example, if they open a diamond, you overcall a heart and they double. If you're gonna bid 2 clubs to transfer into diamonds, which obviously shouldn't be natural because that's like an effective Q bid, that should show your limit raise instead of just like directly Q bidding their suit like it would if you weren't playing transfers. Bidding the step below the suit should now be a constructive raise, and then bidding the suit directly should be the weakest raise. So like a diamond, a heart, double. 2 clubs, a transfer into diamonds would be a limit raise. 2 diamonds, which is a transfer into hearts, would be a constructive raise, and then 2 hearts would be the weakest of those raises. So now you have 3 different ways to show, support for your partner in those situations. You don't have to play transfers over major suit overcalls. Typically, a lot of people play them over the openings, but I feel like you don't really lose anything by applying it to overcalls as well. So I'm just putting it out there, but some people don't do that, and to each their own. Another bid worth talking about is Leaping Michaels. This is actually one of my favorite ones out there. This applies after the opponents have opened a week 2. Typically, you'll just hear that this is applied over opening 2 of a major, but I'm gonna also include 2 diamonds because there's a few different things you can do over a two diamond opener. So after 2 diamonds, you can show, you can jump to 4 clubs to show clubs in a major. And the idea with Leaping Michaels is you jump to the 4 level to show a Michaels hand. Now, obviously, this can't be like regular Michaels where it's mini maxi, where you could be doing this on a 6 count, or you could be doing this on a huge hand. This has to be a good hand because you're forcing your partner to the 4 level to begin with. This has got to be a solid hand. If it's not going to be super solid on point count, it's got to be very solid on shape. Like it's got to be, if you're going to not have like at least like a 14 or 15 count here, you need to be like at least 6'5". Um, but the idea is that you jump to show an anchor suit and then some other suit where your partner can figure out what it is. So after 2 diamonds, you can jump to 4 clubs to show clubs in a major. 4 diamonds could be your asking bid in that situation, and then they can bid hearts or spades, depending on what their major is. And then 4 diamonds, 2 diamonds, 4 diamonds will just be, just your both majors Michaels. So then you might be asking, well, what is 3 diamonds? The idea with 3 diamonds in that situation, it should be like a Western Q. It should not be both majors. It should be basically saying, hey, do you have a diamond stopper? If so, bid 3 no. I've got the tricks covered. Like you might have a solid minor, or you might just have a loaded hand that can take 9 tricks, and that you're basically just checking to see that you can play 3 no if your partner has that suit stopped. And then what the classical Leaping Michaels is over 2 of a major. Over 2 of a major, 4 clubs shows clubs in the other major, and then 4 diamonds shows diamonds in the other major. You jump into the minor to show that minor and then the other major. Obviously, you can't do that over 2 diamonds because, there you might just have either one major or both. So that's why you can have these bids in those situations. Now, the implications of playing Leaping Michaels is that over a week 2, 3 no, if you're like already a past hand, like past 2 diamonds 3 no, that should show a minor suit preempt, like 4 clubs being a pass or correct there. And then as an unpassed hand, it should be gambling 3 no. Basically just asking your partner if they have a stop, basically telling your partner to pull if they can't withstand being in 3 no, just like they would if you had opened 3 no. If you just have strength, you can start with a double, and then if your partner bids Lebensol because you would play Lebensol over week 2s, you could certainly just break it by bidding something else. So if we were to fill that in, well, we'll play jump overcalls are weak, preempts. We're not going to talk too much about this, but they should be sound or light depending on if you're vol or non-vol. Redouble implies no fit. A new suit should be forcing at the 1 level. Juno over to majors. We're going to play that as weak because we're going to play it as a transfer to clubs. And over to minors, that should be mixed. And then versus opening preempts, you play takeout through 4 hearts and you play Lebensol typically. All right. As you can see, we've almost gotten through this entire card. And then in the extra convention section, we're going to add Leaping Michaels. So there's only a few things left to talk about. Defenses and then slam bidding. And I'm going to choose to use the rest of the time today to talk about slam bidding because there's a lot to go there. First topic is, of course, 1430 versus 3014. And the answer to this is I don't think there's a big reason to play one over the other. I've always been a 1430 person. Mexdroth plays 3014. And whenever I play with him, I have to switch, which, of course, is hard for me to remember, but, that's his preference. I don't really think it matters. I've heard some lines of theory on why one is better than the other, but I really just don't have enough backing to advocate for one over the other. So it's just a personal preference thing. I feel like 1430 is the more popular one in certain areas over 3014. It's just kind of like maybe a regional thing. But, it's like almost all my partnerships, I play 1430. So that's that for that. I'm going to check off 1430 on our card. But you can do whatever you want. Like I said, I don't really think this matters. I would even check both off to say I don't freaking care. That's just my perspective. So next thing to talk about with slam bidding is how you should ask for kings. There's two different approaches. The standard approach is numeric kings, where you respond with the number of kings that you have, which allows your partner to properly gauge, whether you should be, where you should be. But I think it's more important to place specific kings, where you respond with directly what king you have, and now your partner can, decipher um, uh, if you have enough tricks for slam or not. This allows them to get a very good picture of your hand and to count tricks for grand versus just being in 6. So the basics of specific kings is over, the ask being like 5 no, or however you ask for kings. You respond to the king ask with your cheapest king. Isn't it most important to be able to count key cards between the partnership before bidding 7 diamonds? Yes. You should be able to count key cards, and I guess in addition to this being the bidding series, this is just going to be the Rag on Snake series because Snake's bidding is pretty bad. And yes, you should be able to count key cards. That would be a good step in the right direction to figure out if you can be in Grand or not. But the basics of specific kings is that over to King Ask, you respond to the respond to the King Ask with your cheapest king. Of course, you're not going to go above the trump suit because that's just dangerous. So, like for example, if you're asking for key cards and hearts and then you bid 5 no and you've got the king of diamonds, you bid 6 diamonds. You not only show the king of diamonds, but you also deny the king of clubs. If you have both the king of clubs and the king of diamonds, you start by bidding 6 clubs because that's your cheapest king. Now, something that people overlook is what you can use the subsequent bids for. If you're still thinking about getting the grand, like you think to yourself, great, I know my partner's got the king of clubs, but if they have the king of diamonds, which they still might have because after all, it is specific kings, if they have the king of diamonds, we might make 7, or we're probably making 7. So what you can do is you can follow up by bidding a different suit at the 6th level after their answer to the specific king ask, and then basically say, if you have the king of this suit, bid grand. So like over 6 clubs, if you were curious about the king of diamonds, you could bid 6 diamonds, which says, bid 7 if you've got the king of diamonds. If just sign off in 6. So you can use the different suits there for like asking bids over that specific king ask, because they still certainly could have it. They only told you they have this one. They still might have the ones above it. Next thing to talk about is the queen ask. So, when you don't have a response that shows or denies the queen, like the 14 or the 30 responses, or the 30 or 14, depending on how you're playing it. I don't like the way the robots play this. How the robots play it is the robots play that like bidding 5 no shows the queen but denies outside kings. Whereas that should show multiple kings. Jumping to 6 should show the queen and deny outside kings. I don't know why they don't do it that way. But the basics of what the queen ask should be is that if you bid 5 of your suit, you're denying the queen. If you bid 5 or 6 of a different suit, it should show the queen and the king of that suit. It's a specific king response, but it should only be that king. Bidding 5 no should show the queen and multiple kings. And now if you want to ask if they have the king of a specific suit, you could bid 6x, where, x probably isn't going above the trump suit, to ask for the king and x for finding a potential grand. Like if there was a king ask and they respond 5 no, you could bid 6 clubs to say, hey, if you got the king of clubs, bid 7. If not, sign off in 6. And then the one thing I did miss here is that bidding 6 of your suit should show the queen and no outside kings. I really don't know why the robots don't do this. This seems pretty standard to me, but for whatever reason, they don't. So this is what the queen ask and the responses should properly look like, not how Gib plays it. So next thing to talk about with slam bidding is how to look for slam over a preempt. Obviously, just playing 4-0 as like 14-30 in that situation is dangerous, especially if you're like preempting in 2 diamonds, for example. You might get past your suit, which of course is dangerous. We're going to have a solution to that later, but what most people play over preempts in terms of slam asking is what's called poor man's key card. And why they call it poor man's key card is because your key cards are limited by the fact you preempted, right? Like, you can't have 3 key cards because that would be like ace, ace, king, or 3 aces. You can't have that type of hand or you wouldn't have preempted. Basically, you should have different types of step responses instead of what typical 1430 is. So the idea that after a 2-level preempt, a jump to 4 clubs should be the ask. It's not non-forcing Gerber. It is key card. And then likewise over 3 clubs, because 4 clubs could just be construed as a raise, 4 diamonds should be that ask. Which makes sense because when we talk about kickback next, that will be its standard ask anyway. But then the responses are basically a little bit modified from regular 1430 based on the fact that your key cards are already limited. So basically you should play 5 steps, but those 5 steps should be different. So the first step should be half a key card. And half, by the way, when I say half, that's just referring to the queen of that suit. So it's like having the queen in your preempt. So the first step should be half, then it should be 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, which is the max. Because you wouldn't have more than this for a preempt. So that's what your 5 steps should be. And if you do that, you can properly stay as low as you need to based on the response, and you still can get the slam ask in. So that's poor man's key card. Over a week 2, a jump to 4 clubs is a key card ask, and then over a 3 club preempt, 4 diamonds becomes that ask. And then after like a 3 diamonds or 3 hearts or 3 spades, you should probably be able to safely revert into, your normal slam asks there, without being buried because, of course, their key cards can only be, so limited. But that's something worth noting, and I think some people overlook this one. I will link this convention in my Discord after this. So that's poor man's key card. Next thing to talk about is kickback. Kickback, it's a big improvement over just having 4-no as always being key card. Because the problem with having 4-no as always being your key card is that based on your partner's response, it might get you past 5 of your trump suit. I mean, if you play, regular 1430 for everything, and you're looking for slamming clubs, what is the advantage of playing 1430? I always thought it was annoying if you were deciding between 5 clubs and 6 clubs and might want to stop in 5. I mean, do people use 30-14 when clubs is trump or something? Because you talk like it's just one choice. I mean, I don't... For the 1430 versus 30-14 debate, I don't really have an answer. But for your point about clubs, I'm about to actually explain a solution. And the solution is to be that 4-no should not always be key card. The response could get you above 5 of your trump suit, especially with the minors, which is very problematic. So the improvement upon this is is a convention called kickback. The idea being that 4x plus 1, where x is your trump suit, so the suit above your trump suit at the 4 level should be the ask for key cards in your suit. So like if you're looking for slam and clubs, 4 diamonds should be your ask. If you're looking for slam and diamonds, 4 hearts should be your ask. And, even if you're looking for slam and hearts, because if you're looking for slam and hearts and the 5 spade response gets you too high, then it's problematic. So 4 spades should be key card for hearts in that situation. And you can still play 1430 or 30-14 in this situation. You'll still have all 5 responses available to you, and you'll still be under your trump suit if you need to bail out. So if you play 4 diamonds as key card for clubs, even if you're playing 1430 or 30-14, the worst response your partner can give you is 5 clubs, which is 2 with the queen, and if that response doesn't satisfy you, then guess what? You get to play 5 clubs. So, you should play kickback because then you're able to bail out as needed. I've also heard of a lot of people who play minor wood, where, if they're looking for the minors, just bidding 4 of the suit itself is the ask. That's reasonable if you have the agreements for it, but I feel like there's a lot more confusion that's added in if you have your suit be key card. Whereas if you just play kickback, since it's a different suit, it obviously has to be artificial. You think 1430 is preferred because the chances of you asking partner and partner having 0 key cards is the least possible, hence you want the response with the most possibility as the cheaper bid. But kickback is amazing. Yeah, kickback is a monstrous improvement over 4-no just always being keycard. I don't know why the robots don't have this programmed into them. It is just so problematic to have 4-no as always be keycard because of this situation. If you have this, you can play 1430 or 3014, whatever you prefer, without any problems. Do I have a hand to illustrate kickback? I mean, I don't know if I can pull one up on the spot, but you know, I certainly could for my thing on Monday, and I bet if I looked hard enough in tournaments that I played in, I could obviously find kickback hands and where they've bailed me out of bad contracts based on the response I've given. So the responses are still normal. You can still play specific king and your queen ask with everything over that. The idea, of course, being with specific kings that you now bid 5 of the kickback suit to be your specific king ask. So, like, if you're bidding 4 diamonds for key card and clubs, 5 diamonds after whatever your partner responds should be specific kings, and so on and so forth. And while we're on the topic of slam responses, something that gets overlooked about slam responses is what to do with voids. If you're not like, if your partner's doing the key card ask and you have a void, you need to be able to have a way to show it because it could be very critical, for your partner to know that, where you might be off 2 key cards, but you actually can make slam because one of those missed key cards is in your void, so you'll be okay. So the typical thing to do there is that with an even number of key cards in a void, you respond 5-no, if 4-no is the ask. Now, if you're playing like, standard stuff, or if you're playing like kickback and you're like doing 4 diamonds, then 5 diamonds should be the same thing. Basically, it's 1 full level over the keycard ask. That should show a even number of key cards and some void. Probably based on the auction, it should be pretty clear what the void is, but not always. But that is pretty clear in those situations. And then with an odd number of key cards in a void, you're supposed to jump to 6 of that suit to show that void. So like over 4-no, if you're sitting with like 3 key cards in a club void, you jump to 6 clubs. So that's what to do with voids. Even 5-no trump, or well, one level over the key card ask, and then odd jump to the suit at the 6th level to show that void. And then the last thing worth talking about, is this the last thing? No, it's not. So it's not the last thing. But another thing to talk about is exclusion Blackwood. Exclusion Blackwood is an effective way to be able to ask for key cards with a void. You've heard people say, well, you can't ask for key cards with a void. Well, with exclusion, you can. Because in very, very clear situations, when you're like looking for a slam, if you jump to like the 4 level, or well, usually the 5 level, depending on the auction, after a fit has been agreed upon, that should be exclusion Blackwood asking for key cards except for the ace in the suit being used for exclusion. So like if your partner jumps to some number of clubs for exclusion Blackwood and clubs, you have your responses be based on key cards with everything that's not including the ace of clubs because your partner doesn't care about that card. Now it's important to talk about what type of responses you play here. I've heard many different things about what people play for their responses to exclusion. Is it still 1430 or 3014? Is it just regular responses? What should it be? I don't really have a strong preference, once again. I think it's just whatever you and your partner are comfortable with. Now, the caveat of playing kickback in certain situations is like what the exclusion suit can be. So like if the auction goes 1 heart, 2 hearts, for example, or well, maybe not 1 heart, 2 hearts, maybe 1 heart, 3 diamonds, a limit raise or better, or well, not better, a limit raise in hearts. 4 spades would be your kickback ask or your key card ask. So 4-no, if you jump to 4-no, that shouldn't be, hey, I forgot we play kickback. You know what that should be? That should be exclusion in spades. That should replace your 4 spade exclusion bid because you're now swapping that to be kickback. Likewise, if it went like 1 heart, 3 diamonds, and I jumped to 5 clubs, that should be exclusion Blackwood in clubs. So I'm asking for everything except for the ace of clubs. That's one thing that people sometimes overlook with kickback is what 4-no should be. Well, it should be exclusion in the suit that was consumed by you having the kickback ask. And then the last thing to talk about is the convention everybody hates, Gerber. I am not totally against Gerber, just like I'm totally not against Bergen. I'm totally not against a lot of conventions that experts hate, and it's why I'm the most hated player amongst experts, not for my character, but it's for the conventions that I don't think are terrible. I like applying Gerber after first or last bid no trumps for key card asks because 4-0 there should often be quantitative. So you should be able to have this available to you to ask for key cards properly. The next thing I'll say is that 1430 or 3014, based on what you prefer, that type of Gerber should apply after a suit has been like agreed upon. So, for example, 1 no, 2 diamonds, 2 hearts, 4 clubs. That should be 1430 because you're asking for key cards in hearts. You could also play 4 spades there as kickback and have 4 clubs be something else, but it might be effective to have 4 clubs as key card there because, you know, based on your partner's response, you might be able to stay at the 4 level if you don't have enough to go to slam. So it's not terrible to do that. You could also apply this in statement auctions also. 1 no, 2 clubs, 2 hearts, 4 clubs. That should probably be 1430 in support of hearts also. But I like to extend 1430 or 3014 Gerber, depending on what you play, to whatever type of Gerber ask you have, even if you haven't agreed upon a suit, even in an auction like 1 no, 4 clubs. Why? And how does that make sense? Well, the idea is that the responses are as follows. First step is 1 or 4 aces. You know, we don't have key cards here, so this isn't just straight key cards. This is aces. Second step is 0 or 3, or you flip these two depending on how you play your key cards, or, well, what type of slam ask you have. The next step is 2 aces with a minimum no trump opener. And then the last step is 2 aces with a maximum. So it's kind of like showing your aces while also showing whether you're at the top or at the bottom of your bid. It's including quantitative into it. This can help you get to some tight slams and also stay out of ones that you don't belong in. Like if you have, if you're off an ace, but you don't have the points to be there, this can help keep you out of it based on that response. So this helps direct you to where you need to be in that situation. So that's how you can play it for everything, even when you don't have a suit agreed upon, is to have your third and fourth steps be like this. So the last thing to talk about with slams is how to handle interference. This is something that's often overlooked, but sometimes people in these competitive auctions will bid 5 of a suit just to try to disrupt you and see if you have this type of thing agreed upon. Now, if you take a look at a convention card, what you'll typically see is you'll see these things: dopey, ropey, and depot. And sometimes people don't even know what these mean. But what these mean is that your first step, double, is showing 0, pass is showing 1, and then basically every step after is whatever it should be. So like your third step would be 2, so on and so forth. Same thing with ropey. It's when they double for no or whatever your key card ask is. And then there's depot, where double is even and pass is odd. I've never really been a fan of that one. But what I like to play instead of any of them is that you should play it. I don't know who that is. Is that you should just play it based on your first and second responses to key card. So like if you play 1430, double should be 1 or 4, and pass should be 3 or 0, and then you know, the next step should be 2 without the queen, and then the step over that should be 2 without the queen. And then same thing with redouble. Redouble being the first step, and then pass being the second step. I just feel like there's no reason to play 1430 or 3014 and then have dopey and ropey and not have them just be your classical keycard answers. I don't see a reason why you would switch it up. So for that reason, I play it that way. So to summarize, we play Gerber, we play specific king, we play exclusion, we play 1430 kickback. Well, or I won't say 1430, I'll just say kickback. We play for first, last, no trumps. And we play 1430 Gerber. And in terms of what we play over interference, we play D14, P30, or flip these if you play 3014. And same thing for the redouble. All right, so we are near the end. Very close. So today we talked about overcalls, no trump overcalls, suit overcalls, and some gadgets worth having there. And then we went through slam bidding, talking about the different types of ways to find slams, talking about kickback, which is a huge improvement over 4-no always being key card, exclusion when you're looking with voids, and so on and so forth. And what we're going to talk about next time is basically what's unfilled here. No trump defense, and what no trump defenses I like and which ones I don't and why. Defenses against other types of bids that I think are worth talking about, and then just kind of like summarize what we've talked about here. And yeah, next lesson Monday is going to be the last one in the series. I thought this was going to be a much longer thing when I started, and maybe it should have been. Maybe I went through this way too quick. I don't know. Sometimes I talk too fast. Yeah, I've got quite the source if you want to learn that one. So yeah, we're gonna next session will be the last. We'll talk about no trump defense, extras, defenses, and just review this. I know this was supposed to be much longer at the beginning, but I basically consolidated it into a 10-part series, and I think that's useful because I'm actually going to announce something right now. I'm going to announce that after the bidding series wraps up on Monday, I think it's worth talking about defense, because defense is this whole section here, and we need to fill it out also. Now, defense you can't talk about as long as you talk about bidding. You could, but there's certain basic concepts that I can talk about, and then there's books which can give millions and millions of examples. So I'll leave it to that. I already have some notes typed up. I think it's only going to be a 2 or 3-part thing, but either way, we will be talking about it, and so we will be covering defense for those who are looking forward to that. After all, at the end of the day, if you take an average of what you do most often in bridge, 50% of the time you're defending and only 25% you're declaring, so it is worth talking about defense. I don't know if I'm going to ever touch upon declare play, because I feel like declare play is something that you just learn through doing it over and over again and looking at different hand examples. I don't think I can teach a class on it because I'm not even great at it myself. But defense is something that's a little more in my wheelhouse, so I think that's a logical next step. So yeah, if you guys have any feedback on what we should be covering going forward, definitely let me know. Reach out to me however you want to, and I'd be happy to take it, because I feel like I've done some good stuff here and would like to continue this going forward with whatever people think is worth discussing. So that's that. I will be putting this on YouTube. You can find these videos on YouTube using the YouTube command, and everything up to this point is also in Discord, which you can find using the Discord command. And I will see everybody Monday, 5 o'clock Pacific, 8 Eastern, and so on and so forth. So I'm going to keep streaming for a while, so for those who are interested in watching me